After the medical innovation bill was put forward by the late IFP Member of Parliament, Oriani-Ambrosini, earlier this year, we at Newsroom have spoken extensively about the pros and cons, implications and benefits of decriminalising marijuana in what has now become the hashtag Dagga Debate. There's a lot of traction online. Today, we take a closer look at the bill itself and we talk about why some are saying Ambrosini's innovation bill is potentially the worst bill created for legalising cannabis here in South Africa. To do so, we are joined today from Durban by Andre du Plessis from the Cannabis Working Group. Very good morning to you, Andre. Thank you for joining us once again.
Good morning, Evan. Thanks very much for having me again.
Just clarify for us quickly, we're actually dealing with two bills at the moment, the Medical Innovation Bill and the Cannabis Control Bill. Just tell us, what do both entail?
The Medical Innovation Bill was a bill that was put forward by Oriani-Ambrosini. It was rushed through due to his state of health, and it's effectively a copy-paste version of a bill that was put forward in the UK. The bill itself allows for treatment centres in South Africa and only one licence to be issued for medical cannabis. This research approach retards access to patients who need cannabis right now. And it doesn't deal with the amount of cannabis that is being used in society at the moment. And even there are people using cannabis right now as we speak. The working group's Cannabis Control Bill deals with the criminalisation of cannabis and is based on international best practices, has easy to follow guidelines, and will regulate the markets and bring control to what is currently uncontrolled. The guidelines give ways to keep cannabis out of the hands of children and set achievable goals that will be subject to review and reform the more we learn from the international examples that are being set, where the sky hasn't fallen down on people's heads after they legalized. Our bill allows for tiers to be set, and everything will be regulated via tiers. Only one person, you can only have access to one tier at any one point, and Tier 1 members will be allowed for a small area of cultivation, and they can work in a cooperative of no more than 10 members. Tier 2 will allow for a 3-hectare industrial crop, where the dried flowering tops and seeds have to be sold to a Tier 3 for beneficiation, and shop fronts would fall into Tier 4. Each of these tiers have got rules and regulations to conform to, and failure to comply would lead you to losing your license. These rules and regulations will cover production, access, labeling, transit, and will be set by the relevant parliamentary committee tasked to write them.
Who are the powers currently behind this bill, and who are making the choices around what it is now and what it will become?
The IFP are the people in charge at the moment. They've readopted the bill after Mario put it forward in Parliament, and hearings are still to be held with regard to the interested and affected parties who have an interest with regard to the Medical Innovation Bill in Parliament. The first hearing was heard by the Parliamentary Committee on Health. However, unfortunately, people weren't informed of it, so effectively the first hearing was held behind closed doors. The public and the working group submissions have been made, and we're calling for these public hearings to still take place.
How much money, we always hear about research has to be done. When we had the CDA here, they talked about research, more research. How much money has already been spent on research in this space, and are we seeing results, and are we seeing movement?
Well, even since the last time I was here, I think I pointed out that South Africa has, in fact, the South African government and various departments and parastatals have funded cannabis research to what my research has led me to believe is about R1 billion. And the departments involved have been the Agricultural Research Council, the CSIR, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, the Departments of Health, the Departments of Agriculture, Economic Development, the Departments of Trade and Industry, the Departments of Social Development, the Eastern Cape Economic Development, and that billion rand that I'm talking about, this excludes the delegations that have gone to visit places like China and Canada, and that excludes the costs to get to these places.
What about public involvement? To what extent has the public been involved in this process now? And is there a kind of open door policy with this?
Well, I wouldn't say there's an open door policy. It's taken many per-year requests to find out what's actually happening with regard to cannabis research in South Africa. The cannabis hemp research, according to our pioneers, is driven by a Dr. Thandeka Kunene. She's apparently been in charge since 2002, and participation in cannabis trials have happened effectively only at her consent. You know, this is a very monopolized approach to scientific research. And the Medicines Control Council, who issue these licenses, insist that at the end of every year there's a research report that is written, and in the past 14 years of research there hasn't been any research reports that I've been able to access aside from two of them, so there's another 12 missing.
The official line is that people do in fact in South Africa have access to medical marijuana if the right channels, this is applications and approvals, are followed. Is this true? And how exactly will the bill change things if change is then needed in that space?
The Section 21 application process that Peter Yuka referred to on the show, and Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, the Minister of Health, has also alluded to, is an application for an unregistered medicine, and that would include cannabis as well. However, I've had the director of the Medicines Control Council, Joey Gous, also explain the process to me. But when I called for further clarification, the doctor that deals with the Section 21 applications, Dr. Shamil Manbot, said that although you can apply for the applications, they are denied if there's a registered equivalent available. Just as Mario was unable to get his medicine before he died, at the moment there's many more patients that can't get access to medicine at the moment. And to these patients, I'd request them to please go to our website, cannabis.reforms.co.za, and go to the About section and check in the links there. There's a patient nexus group. Those that are looking for assistance, they can go there.
Andre, finally, we've got around 25% unemployment in the country, and we're battling really, our economy is struggling to really come to terms with what's been a difficult patch. If you could put a number on the contribution that the legalization of cannabis would make to our economy, what would that guesstimate be?
Sure, Evan. Well, Colorado, Washington, they have a very similar GDP to what South Africa has at the moment. And you'd imagine any figures that come from those places would at least have some relevance to the South African economy. In Colorado, 10,000 jobs were created in the direct cannabis economy, with knock-on effects onto secondary supportive businesses that support the cannabis economy. And of course, from that, in the industrial perspective, those secondary businesses are actually quite a lot larger, so they employ a lot more than the initial 10,000. The benefits with regard to taxation and financial income, that runs in billions of dollars, and that could apply to South Africa as well. We could jump up and get this business up and running very quickly, just as quickly as Colorado and Washington did. And to wait for the period that government is taking to catch a wake up, we're losing out. The longer we talk, the more we lose.
Well, it's a conversation that's been going on for months now online, and millions and millions of people are interested. But Andre du Plessis from the Cannabis Working Group joining us live from Durban. Thank you very much. As we continue the hashtag Dagga Debate, that's where you can follow it online. Of course, lots of different opinions. Should it be legalized? Why not? Lots of different calls going on. What are your views?